my 2022 July bullet journal setup. If you've been around for a while, you'll probably know that for 2022, I've chosen to have an overall theme for this year, which encompasses all of my monthly themes. And this year, my theme is fairy tales, so for the month of July, I decided to go with the theme The Little Mermaid. I'm starting off by creating a light outline and marking down the general shape so that everything will fall in the center of the page. Then on the left side, I'm just sketching out the skeleton or the shell of the fish, and this is going to sort of curl around the outline that I've made like lace curtains, so I'm keeping the fins relatively light and fine like diaphanous fabric. And as usual, I'm also just adding a couple of flowers near the body of the fish just to brighten up the drawing, and I'm also just making the outline more prominent by darkening the corners and adding some extra details. I kind of just went with the flow and added a couple of ringlets and loops that we'll be cutting out later on. In the meantime, I'm just breathing some life into the fish by coloring it in, and so I'm starting off with a light base of beige and pink, which I will then be building on top of with some darker shades of red and black. I actually really enjoyed coloring this in because of all the highlights near the tail and the shadows near the flowers, and I think it just made it so soothing and relaxing. It kind of reminds me of the ocean with its long ribbons of ripples lapping at the shore in a soft spray of white. So I just let the colors kind of fade out as the fins tapered. As for the flowers, I'm just giving them a light wash of beige first, followed by some pink, and then I'm just going in with my pencil and darkening the pistil before coloring the leaves. After that, I'm filling in the curves and edges with some light blue and purple, and I think I was going for the ruffled appearance of flowing water, like long wreaths of watery paint, a kind of prismatic brilliance, if you will. But in the end, I think it just clashed a bit with the warm tones of the fish and flowers, so I decided to keep it very light so that I could go over it later. Then I just cut the middle part out so that I can work on the page behind it. Here, I'm just using the first page to mark down the edges for my next cutout, and this is going to ensure that both pages will layer nicely. Once I've marked down the framework for this page, I'm just going to start drawing another fish facing the opposite direction, so the tail is going to be curving up this time and flicking over to the left. I'm also just adding the little flowers and leaves, which will be dangling like streamers or beaded necklaces around the body, and I'm making sure to leave some space in the middle for the last page of these cutouts. In terms of coloring, I'm just going to be doing the same thing I did for the previous page, so I'm going to start off with a light blanket of beige, and then I'm just continuously adding layers in assorted shades of pink and red and black. I'm now just filling in all of the flowers and greenery, as well as adding some more shading to the body of the fish, especially near the backbone and some of the fins. I also decided to add a light dusting of gold with some paint, and you can't really see it very well on camera, but in real life it gleams in the sunlight, especially at certain angles. And now we're going to cut this page out as well, allowing us to move to the final page. So here I am drawing yet another fish, this time in the center of the page where there's a blank spot, and I'm basically repeating the same process, so I'm drawing the same type of fish as the previous two pages, but I'm just moving it toward the right a little bit. For the colors, I just stuck to the same color palette of beige, pink, red, and black, and I decided to lay it pretty thick with the black, but I think it actually turned out alright, and I think the shadows just add a bit more depth to the fish. also added a few light touches of gold to the body of the fish since I really like how the paint looks under the sun. And of course, I'm just filling in all of the flowers and leaves. Finally, since the rest of the page was looking a little bit empty, I wanted to add a couple more flowers, so I quickly just sketched out this cluster of roses near the top right corner where you'll be able to see tiny glimpses of them, just a sliver of pink from the first page. I kept the coloring relatively simple, and I just stuck to some pink and a faint pinch of red. The shading was also pretty straightforward. I just added a few darker shades of pink, green, and some black. Finally, I also went in with some more gold and just gave the flowers a light brush of paint. Lastly, I'm flipping through the pages and filling in the curves and whorls with some different shades of brown. And as I mentioned earlier, I originally wanted to color it in a kaleidoscope of blues, purples, and reds to mimic the appearance of water under a sunset, but I think the shades of blue that I had just didn't really sit well with the bright reds and pinks, so I opted for brown instead. Now, moving on to the left side, I'm just quickly writing July 2022 and then the quote, "Who says that my dreams have to stay just my dreams?" from The Little Mermaid. And underneath that, I'm just sketching out the framework of some seashells and a starfish. Then I'm just coloring all of these in with some beige for the base, followed by some darker tan colors, some light orange, and some warm tones of brown. And because I've just fallen madly in love with the gold paint, I decided to bathe everything in a feathery quilt of gold. Finally, moving on to the next page, this is going to be my July calendar spread. So I've just marked down all of the lines and grids for each day of the month, and I've left the right side blank so that I can add a little sketch. And keeping in mind the theme for this month, I decided to draw a whale leaping out from a sea of cherry blossoms. I just really love the color palette of these flowers, and I think that whales are such beautiful, majestic creatures, gliding and diving like birds of water. And if they were birds, I suppose the ocean would be their sky and the sky their ocean, as though the world has been flipped over like an hourglass timer. Anyway, I just colored the whale and flowers pink, and then I filled in the branches underneath with some dark brown. Finally, I'm just coloring in this line up top between the days of the week and the actual dates below to act as sort of a colorful border. Flipping over to the next page, this is going to be my gratitude and monthly book spread, where I'll just be tracking all of the books I've read and maybe adding some quotes or reviews below. So I'm starting off by drawing this bundle of flowers and leaves bursting from the bottom of the page, and I'm sketching out some roses, various leaves, and some smaller branches extending out with little flower buds dotted around its skin. In order to tie this in with the ocean theme, I also added a couple of seashells on the side, as well as the starfish and some rocks near the bottom, which I will just pretend are actually seashells. And in terms of the colors, I'm just going to keep it relatively simple, and so I'm going to be using some pinks and light purples for the different blooms of flowers. And I always like to start off with a beige or light brown base just to give it that initial color before building on top with some different shades. After, I'm just making my way across each of the different flowers, starting with the big three in the middle. And I tried to make them all slightly different colors, so I'm adding some purple and light strokes of brown in some of the flowers. for the shading, I just added a little bit of black for the first 3 flowers, and for the other smaller ones, I'm using some beige, orange, and dark brown to fill them in. I've also got these lavenderish flowers, and I'm just layering them with some darker pinks and red to brighten the color. For the leaves, I'm also just layering some darker greens in different areas, along with some light browns and darker blacks. For the seashells, I'm sticking to a more neutral color palette for the base with some beige and brown, and then I'll just be adding some more layers of color as we progress. Here I'm just filling in the seashell with some more pink and brown, and the other 2 rocks with some darker browns and tan colors. Finally, I'm just going to write books on the left page, gratitude on the right side, and then outline everything in a gold pen. And now, flipping over again, we've made it to my weekly spreads, and for these spreads, I'm just going to be creating a bunch of Dutch doors to form a sort of mini booklet that I use for my weeklies. So I'm beginning by drawing another fish in the right corner, and I'm just quickly coloring this in with some beige, followed by pink and red. I like to make the red really dark so that there will be a much greater contrast between the shadows and the lighter areas of the fish. And once I'm done with the colors, I always go back in with my pencil to add some black shadows. I just go over some of the red outlines, and I find that it really helps to darken everything, and it creates a bit more depth within the drawing. Now, once that's done, I'll just be cutting it out to create a Dutch door, and for the page behind this, I'm essentially going to be doing the same thing, but the fish is just going to be in a different position so that it's visible from the first page when we flip through everything. So, like last time, I just colored everything in with some warm shades of pink and red before darkening everything with some black. After cutting this page out, I'm going to be working on the final page, and for this one, the fish is going to be facing down and coming in from the top right corner. Then I'll just be coloring everything the same way as the last 2 pages before also cutting this page out to create the last Dutch door. Finally, I'm just writing the days of the week with this brush pen, and on the final page, I'm making it a note/to-do list spread, and after that, I went back and wrote down all of the dates below each weekday and colored them in pink to add some more color to these spreads. And finally, for the final to-do list page, I just went ahead and added pink rose after every other line. Here is the final flip through. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.